There is a word that Jesus spoke from the cross, a word so ancient and so charged with spiritual power that most people have never understood what it truly meant. It was not simply a prayer. It was not a gesture of weakness. It was an act of total energetic release, one that shattered every invisible chain binding the human soul. That word is shbaq. In Aramaic, the living language Jesus spoke every single day of his earthly life. Shbaq does not simply mean forgive. It means to release completely, to untie the knot that binds energy between two souls, to let go at the deepest level of your being. When Jesus spoke shbaq from the cross, he was not simply expressing emotion. He was performing a cosmic act of liberation. He was dissolving a frequency of pain that had trapped humanity for generations. And here is what no one ever told you. That same power is available to you right now, in this moment. Every resentment you carry, every wound you refuse to release, every name you cannot say without your chest tightening, that is trapped energy. Trapped energy does not stay silent. It shapes your decisions, blocks your blessings, and distorts your sense of what is possible for your life. Jesus knew this, and he encoded the solution into a single ancient word. What you are about to discover is not religious theory. It is a spiritual technology that was always meant to set you completely free. To truly understand shbaq, you must first understand where it comes from and why the language matters so deeply. Jesus did not speak Greek. He did not speak Latin. He spoke Aramaic, a Semitic language that carries meaning, not just in words, but in vibration, in breath, and in spiritual resonance. When you read the Gospels in their translated forms, something essential is always left behind. The translators did their best, but language is not a neutral vessel. It carries a frequency, and that frequency changes everything. The word shbaq comes from an Aramaic root that means far more than its English equivalent suggests. In Greek translations, it became aphamy, which English Bibles render as forgive. But shbaq holds something deeper. It carries the sense of releasing a debt completely, of untying a cord that has been wrapped tightly around your energy field. It is not a passive act. It is not sentimental. It is an active, a deliberate movement of spiritual liberation. Jesus used this word in one of the most powerful moments in all of recorded human history. As he hung on the cross, in the fullness of human pain, he spoke, and what he said was not what most people think. In the Gospel of Luke, chapter 23, verset 34, the words are recorded, "Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing." But in the original Aramaic spiritual tradition, the word behind forgive is shbaq, command, to release, to sever the energetic bond between the wound and the soul. This was not resignation. This was not surrender to suffering. This was Jesus demonstrating the highest form of energetic mastery available to a human being. He was showing, in real time, that the one who releases is the one who is truly free. The one who holds on remains bound not to the other person, but to the pain itself. And pain held long enough does not simply hurt. It becomes identity. Most people think of forgiveness as something you do for the other person. You release them from guilt. You let them off the hook. You say the words. You close the chapter, and you move on. But Jesus never taught shbaq as a gift you give to someone else. In the Aramaic understanding, shbaq is something you do for yourself because you are the one who is trapped. Imagine a rope. One end is tied to a memory, a betrayal, a rejection, a moment of deep injustice that you did not deserve. The other end is tied to you. Every time you think about that person, that event, that wound, you pull the rope and you feel it. The tightness in your chest, the heat in your face, the low hum of anger that never quite goes away. That is the energetic cord that shbaq was designed to cut. Jesus understood something that modern neuroscience is only beginning to confirm. Unresolved emotional wounds do not simply fade with time. This is not metaphor. They store themselves in the body. They alter the chemistry of your thoughts. They create a kind of internal interference, a static frequency that blocks your access to clarity, to peace, to the divine flow that is meant to move through your life without obstruction. When Jesus spoke shbaq on the cross, He was not speaking from a place of comfort. He was speaking from the most extreme form of human pain imaginable. And that is exactly the point. shbaq is not designed for easy situations. It is forged for impossible ones. It is designed for the moments when holding on feels more honest than letting go. It is the act of choosing your freedom over your resentment, not because the other person deserves it, but because you do. This is the teaching that religion often softens, and the world rarely speaks. But Jesus taught it without apology, and it is time you received it. The same way, if you made it this far, it means that some part of you is already seeking something beyond information. You are seeking awakening itself. I created 2 study guides to help turn that search into a daily practice, rather than just a passing feeling. You'll find the links to both guides in the pinned comment below. Use them whenever you feel ready to go deeper on your journey. And the best is yet to come in the next chapters. You'll discover what could change everything for you. There is a dimension of shbaq that most spiritual teachings never reach, and it is the dimension Jesus lived from every single day. It is not simply about releasing another person. It is about releasing the version of yourself that was constructed around the wound. This is where shbaq stops being forgiveness and becomes full inner transformation. Most people carry pain long enough that it starts to feel like identity. The resentment becomes their protection. The grief becomes the lens through which they interpret everything that follows. But Jesus understood something that no religious system had made plain before him. That identity built on pain is not identity at all. It is a cage built so slowly and so quietly that you forgot it had a door. shbaq, in its deepest Aramaic meaning, is not directed outward. It is directed inward, toward the self, toward the story you have been telling about what happened to you and what it made you. We replay the scene. We rehearse what we should have said. We carry the evidence of what was done as though it proves something essential about our worth or our future. But Jesus taught that shbaq dissolves that evidence entirely. It does not erase what happened, but it strips the wound of its authority over your present life. In the Gospel of Matthew, chapter 18, verse 22, Jesus was asked how many times one must forgive, and his answer was 70 times 7. In Aramaic, this is not it is the language of totality. shbaq is not a one-time event. It is a permanent orientation of the soul. When it becomes that, the body begins to release what it stored. The mind finds clarity it had forgotten. And what was blocked begins, quietly and powerfully, to flow once more. What Jesus demonstrated with shbaq was never meant to remain a theological concept stored inside sacred texts. It was meant to be practiced, activated, made living and breathing inside the daily reality of ordinary human beings. The question that has always mattered is not whether shbaq works. The question is whether you are truly willing to use it. The Aramaic tradition understood that words carry spiritual force. When Jesus spoke, he was not simply communicating ideas, he was releasing frequencies into the living fabric of reality. Every Aramaic word he used was chosen not only for its meaning, but for its resonance, its breath pattern, and its effect on the soul receiving it. shbaq is no different. When spoken with full intention and full surrender, it functions as a release code, a declaration to your own nervous system, your own energy field, your own unconscious, that holding that wound is no longer necessary. Science is beginning to understand what Jesus already knew. Studies in trauma research demonstrate that the body holds unresolved emotional events as somatic tension, altered breathing, and disrupted biochemistry. This is not abstract. It is measurable, and the act of genuine full-body release, the kind that shbaq was designed to produce, has been shown to restore coherence to the nervous system. What the Aramaic masters called energetic liberation, researchers today are beginning to call emotional regulation. The language has changed. The mechanism has not. Jesus modeled shbaq, not as a silent internal prayer, but as a public declaration of spiritual authority. He spoke it out loud, in the presence of those who wronged him, with the full weight of divine intentionality behind every syllable. This teaches something essential. shbaq requires your voice, your breath, and your full embodied participation. It is not a thought. It is not a feeling. It is an act of sovereign will, the moment you choose your freedom over your suffering, and mean it with every part of your being. If this teaching is stirring a deep resonance in your heart, it is a sign that your soul is ready to return to its original blueprint. To support you in this transition, my guides explain the layers of meaning behind the first sacred words, offering you a path to clear the interference of the world. The link to access these tools is waiting for you in the pinned comment. There comes a moment in every spiritual journey when understanding must become practice. You can know the meaning of shbaq. You can feel the resonance of its history. You can recognize its power in the life of Jesus. But until the word moves from your mind into your body, until it becomes something you do rather than something you know, the energy remains locked. And what remains locked cannot heal, cannot grow, and cannot be returned to its original divine flow. Jesus did not teach shbaq as philosophy. He taught it as a way of moving through the world, a daily posture of the soul that chooses release over retention, freedom over the false comfort of stored grievance. In his teachings, forgiveness was never passive. It was the most active spiritual discipline available to a human being, and in Aramaic, the very structure of the word reveals this. Shbaq is a verb that requires the full participation of the one who speaks it. The people who struggle most with shbaq are not those who lack willingness. They are those who confuse release with approval. They believe that to release a wound is to say that what happened was acceptable, that the pain was deserved, that justice does not matter. But Jesus never taught that. Shbaq does not erase the reality of what was done. It simply removes that reality from its position of authority over your present energy field. It declares this happened, and it no longer has the power to define what comes next. In the Gospel of Mark, chapter 11, verse 25, Jesus connects shbaq directly to prayer, to the open channel between the human soul and the divine source. He teaches that a heart carrying unforgiveness is a heart with a closed signal. Shbaq reopens that signal. It clears the interference, and when the signal is clear, what flows through is not ordinary. It is the same frequency that moved through Jesus himself, healing everything it touched. If today's message has given you a new way of seeing this teaching, imagine what becomes possible when you explore it even further. My site is dedicated to bridging ancient spirituality and modern living. There you will find my guides and a deep journey into Aramaic, the living language of the masters, designed to help you access states of deep resonance, clarity, and personal revelation. The link is pinned in the comments. And before you leave, we would love to hear from you. If you felt a shift in your energy, gained a new insight, or experienced an inner awakening during this message, write the word restoration in the comments below. Your testimony may inspire and encourage many others who are also seeking light, knowledge, and renewal in their lives. Transformation Protocol, the shbaq activation. What you are about to receive is not a ritual. It is not a performance. It is a practical spiritual protocol rooted in the same Aramaic energetic tradition that Jesus embodied throughout his entire ministry. You do not need to be in a sacred place. You do not need silence or perfection. You need only your breath, your full presence, and the sincere intention to be free. Begin by finding a still position, seated or standing, whichever allows your spine to feel open and your chest to feel unguarded. Place one hand over your heart. This is not symbolic decoration. In Aramaic spiritual practice, the heart is considered the seat of the soul's signal, the place where the energetic cord of shbaq is both tied and untied. Take 3 slow, deliberate breaths. With each exhale, allow your shoulders to fall and your jaw to release. You are not preparing to feel something. You are preparing to let something go. Now bring to your awareness the face, the name, or simply the feeling of the wound you carry. Do not dramatize it. Do not force emotion. Simply allow it to be present the way you would allow a heavy object to rest on a table rather than holding it in your arms. You have been holding it long enough. When that awareness is clear, speak the word shbaq aloud, not as a whisper, not as an apology. Speaketh as Jesus spoketh, as a sovereign declaration of your soul's authority over its own energy field. You may speak it once. You may speak it 3 times. Allow your voice to carry the full weight of what you are releasing. After you speak shbaq, breathe in slowly and deeply, and as you exhale, Consciously imagine the cord between you and that wound becoming slack, then dissolving entirely. Not because the other person deserved release, because you deserve freedom. Because Jesus modeled this at his most human moment so that you would know, without question, that it is possible for you to. You may feel lightness. You may feel grief. You may feel nothing at all in this moment. And that is also valid. shbaq does not always announce itself with sensation. Sometimes it works in the quiet, in the hours that follow, in the dream you have that night, in the moment 3 days from now when you notice that the tightness in your chest is simply gone. Return to this protocol as often as you need. Remember the words of Jesus in Matthew chapter 18:70 times 7. shbaq is not a single event. It is a practice, a direction, a permanent turning of the soul toward its own liberation. Every time you choose it, you become more of who you were always meant to be, unbound, clear, and fully alive in the frequency that Jesus called the kingdom. We are just scratching the surface of this ancient power. Get ready, because in our next video, I will reveal even deeper Aramaic codes that unlock spiritual authority you've never imagined. Make sure you are subscribed and have notifications turned on so you don't miss this unfolding revelation. Thank you for being here and for opening your hearts to this ancient wisdom. Your presence in this space is not accidental. It is part of your own journey of growth and transformation. It is an honor to walk this path of discovery alongside you. Until the next revelation, walk in peace, walk in freedom, walk in shbaq.